Welcome to Friday Takeaway. Nadia, Hassan here. The other is Khoo Chuang. It is a lovely rainy Friday, so if you're out there, be safe on the roads. Apparently the forecast is going to rain the whole day.
Yeah, I might get some ostriches wet actually.
Oh yes, exactly. Actually, it's a mutual friend of ours
It is.
who took that video. So, but I will give props to DG and Huawei. Apparently they already have ads.
Yeah, very mercenary. Very
funny
guerrilla,
ads concerning that ostrich, but we'll have to see. Thankfully the ostrich apparently is safe. But talking about ostriches and parks, you know, if you want to go to Disneyland, before we go on to the more serious stuff, Shanghai Disneyland is now officially open.
Yeah, one of them to compete with Tokyo actually, but that's gonna will capture 1.3 billion Chinese, middle class Chinese. That's a huge market for them.
3.9 square meters, 5.5 billion US dollars to build the damn
You mean
thing.
3.9 square kilometers?
Well, sorry, square
Yeah,
kilometers.
1 Mickey Mouse on a square meter.
Yeah, exact square, sorry, 1 square kilometers. And 5.5 billion US
5.5 billion US dollars.
Yeah, but you know, before we move on, the more interesting thing is there's this Chinese billionaire, his name is Wang Jialin. He's building something called a Wonder Park, and he has been talking trash about Disney, saying, I'm going to open my park first, I'm going to bankrupt you guys in 20 years.
He's got 15 parks coming up. He says,
one tiger is no match for a pack of wolves. And well, you know what Disney said? We don't dignify this idiocy.
His words are not worthy of a response.
Exactly. But of course, in things of worthy of response this week, Janet Yellen, wildly expected, kept her rates between 0.25 to 0.5. Given the really bad May job numbers, we are kind of not surprised. Actually, it would have been a surprise if she had raised rates.
Yeah, I mean, the market was expecting something like 180,000 jobs to be added. They came in at 35 to 40,000. And the 2 months prior to that, they've already been revised downwards. So I think if Yellen had raised rates, she would have shot herself in the foot. Markets would have tumbled.
Yeah, exactly. And she also did mention the UK referendum, which actually has been infecting all markets this week, because as we get closer and closer to the Brexit referendum, which we'll of course talk about, but you know, I feel that Fed statements, right, they've been all over the map. Now she's saying something along the lines of Fed was expecting slower path for future rate raises. This was not, unless I'm dreaming, this is not the tone she took a few months ago.
Look, put it this way, the American economy needs higher interest rates. You cannot have a policy where you got zero rates ad infinitum. That's bad for investment, that's bad for business. They've got to raise it at some point. They've been trying to raise it, but the economy is just not strong enough. It's as simple as that.
I don't know when the next rate rise will be, but she did leave open for July, and I have a feeling we'll be seeing this pattern throughout the year. Every time there's a Fed rate meeting, she will tease that maybe, then the job count numbers, I say, hey, no, we
maybe
never
they should talk to us to formulate a Fed comms policy.
I wish we would. I would love to be able to meet her. But actually, as it turns out, the ringgit actually strengthened when it became clear that the rate hike wasn't coming.
Yeah.
So when I say strengthened, it's still 410.
It is what it is.
Yeah. Anyway, but Mark Mobius, wonderful dapper Mark Mobius, he's still bullish on Malaysia. Do you know that?
Well, of course. Look, I hate to put prick his bubble, but the thing is, he runs the emerging markets Templeton fund. He's got 50 billion US dollars in emerging markets. He cannot not talk the market up. And they can't hold cash. They're being paid by investors to invest their money. They cannot hold cash. It is against the policy. They've got to put it to work. So he cannot say anything other than good stuff about emerging markets.
Are you being cynical?
No,
it's
the truth. It's the truth.
Okay, if I want to look at the glass sort of like half full, right? So he does say the country's a bit undervalued. He says oil and gas and consumer products are attractive. I personally think that's a really safe bet. Oil and gas mostly because oil prices are coming up, and consumer, come on, everybody will need to eat. So it's a very safe category to put yourself into.
Well, put it this way, I train in law, I realized that you can look at one thing and say it 15 different ways. So emerging markets, Mark Mobius is saying it this way, we're seeing it this, because we live here, we see it this way. So I mean, hey, only time will tell.
Well, he does say the ringgit is undervalued, and I'm hoping for that to become true.
Well, he's right. And I mean, look at Zeti reckons it's worth 3.8, where we're at 4.1. Where's the 30 bips coming from? Dare we say it?
He did
Dare we say it?
We do not dare say it, mostly because he does say that the political fog or poison or smoke or whatever, he says it will not have a long-term impact. Malaysia just got a huge backing by the Chinese, by the way. We just forgot to mention
8 Malaysian banks, all inside there.
Nice.
Nice.
But okay, move on to something a bit closer to some people's home away from home, which of course Brexit. We're going to be talking a lot about this in the week to come because referendum is June 23rd. Polls suggest it could go either way. Some of the polls I saw says most people will vote to stay.
Really? So I've seen some which says leave. The thing is, I've lived in the UK, I've lived in London, it's very clear. The people who want the Euro skeptics like Boris Johnson, they don't like the Eurozone membership because it allows for immigration, allows for influx of people. 500 people enter the UK every single day, right? And I hate sound, a bit racist, but the Poles,
You do sound racist.
the Eastern Europe, and look, they come in and they're like, we're in Malaysia, right? We see the Banglas and Nepalese and all. They come in, but they work doubly hard. They work for less. They're much more
Are
able
you
to
saying
take.
the Polish don't work? I think they do.
They do, and that's the thing. The British, they don't like the influx of Eastern Europeans because they're getting shown up.
Yeah.
They're getting upstaged.
Well, Boris Johnson, he might be torpedoing because we all know that he has eyes on the prize, which is David Cameron.
He's always denied it, by the way.
The alleged pig lover.
David Cameron, yeah.
The alleged pig lover
Yeah.
position. But the thing is, we know he's gunning, and this could torpedo his chances.
He's always denied it though, Boris Johnson.
He did. When you look at actually the Leave campaign, the first thing they tell you is 350 million pounds is what they send to the Euro every week, which they said they could go to schools, to cops. Very sadly, in the UK,
cops.
I don't know if you realized that yesterday, but one of their politicians, a Labour politician,
Joe
called
Cox, the Labour MP,
Yeah,
41 years old, got shot and stabbed in public.
Yeah.
Very, very bad. So does the
kids.
UK have? Yeah, very, very sad. Does the UK have problems of its own? Yes, it does, but so does the rest of the Eurozone. I think that the UK, I'm always in favour of secession, if you know what I mean.
Oh no, please do not. The good thing is the Brits aren't as paranoid as the Americans.
Yeah.
So you will not see wildly divergent swings. Maybe they will stay.
Yeah.
Well, they like what's safe. Anyway, what's moving on to what's hot actually moving this week. I don't even know how to pronounce this properly. Trive Property Group?
Trive
Property Group.
Yeah.
Their future is so bright they need to wear shades, and all of that's coming from photovoltaic.
Yeah,
I said it right.
They're actually a really tiny company, a really small company, property company. They triggered the edge trading algorithm last week. 88 million shares last Thursday when the algo was triggered. Top volume yesterday. Today already 2 or 3 million shares. They're going into solar cells.
Yeah, exactly. So the thing is, they actually, that MOU they mentioned of, they're going to collaborate on the R&D. We don't know because they haven't been making money since 2012.
Haven't paid dividends for 5 years.
Well, you wouldn't expect
No, you
that
wouldn't.
type of company.
No.
I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, but you
No.
know what I mean. So the China angle one is very easy to play. China is going to be the biggest PV provider in years, and we all know that that's going to happen. And yeah, as a viable source, it is slowly getting there. It's not as expensive as it was, and the rates are not as good, but at least it's more sustainable.
Absolutely. Just to close, I mean, they've got a year-to-date return on their share price of 60% and about a one-year return of minus 16%. So it's a very volatile stock.
Top Glove is what else we're also looking at, and Top Glove is interesting because at one point you couldn't stop it.
You couldn't stop it, but now this year it has because one-year return 65%, year-to-date return, Nadia, minus 31%.
Holy cow! I
Yeah.
wouldn't have expected that number
Yeah.
when we did the calculations. I
Yeah.
was like, oh dear.
Yeah.
I mean, because they were having a great time with the strong US dollar, and every time there was like a slew of health scares, which
Yeah.
unfortunately always tends to drive up. But apparently, nitrile average selling price is what was killing them.
Yeah,
Or
I
it was
mean,
hard for them.
there's been a few headwinds. I think they've had poor quarterly performances, pressures on the average selling prices. They've had higher costs. I think they're going to not be able to launch one of their new plants this year as well due to these challenges.
I don't know. The absence of US dollar effect and competitive pressures, very, very hard to say. But anyway, that's all for us that we're wrapping up this week. And the week ahead, what is it? Brexit. It's
Brexit
just
23rd,
Brexit.
Wednesday, right?
23rd, it's about 7 hours, of course, behind us, so we will not know.
Yep.
We will not know unless we are those mad people who stay up and read the polls or
Yeah.
something.
And the day before that, we're on holiday, right? Because there's no
Exactly.
Zul al-Quran.
Yeah, so next week I feel that's going to just color everybody. And we did mention it, but really quickly before we wrap up, the Brexit stocks, SP Setia,
Yep,
because of
KLK,
Battersea,
yep.
Ecoworld, all
Ecoworld,
these guys.
KLK, Sime Darby, those with UK assets exposure might
Because
be hit.
Brexit could hit the pound, 20%.
Yeah,
That's what they're saying.
if. All this fear-mongering lah.
Well, that's quite true. If you listen to George Osborne,
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
a lot of fear-mongering. That's all that we have for you this week. I'm Nadia Hassan, he's Khoo Chuang. Happy trading and have a good week ahead, guys.